Hello and welcome to another episode of the Construction Corner podcast. I'm Dylan, I'm your host. And on today's episode, we're going to talk about the biggest thing that you can do in the construction industry to help you out on every single one of your projects. But before we get to that, the thing that I want to talk about first is this concept of really doing labor for labor's sake, work for work's sake, and really enjoying the journey of the projects that you're working on, of the people that you get to be around, and what the journey of really construction is. In that, I think that a lot of us are trying to get to some special place, right? And we're trying to get this project done out the door. And don't get me wrong, like I've still there on some projects and we just want to be done and over it with it. Other projects, we forget to enjoy really how iconic this project is. One project that you might be working on is something really iconic for your town and community. Like I just got to work on a project here locally, and it just finished up in helping them with some really lighting and electrical pieces for this new park. And now you get to see the park and really how cool it is to be part of right in my little small town community. So some of the projects that you have, obviously, you're going to want to get done. You're tired of being around the people that are on those projects, and others are truly iconic. But even in the thick of those projects, you forget how cool it is, how impactful it's going to be. The maybe it is the jobs that it's going to create, or that it's city hall for your community, or some other iconic. It's the biggest tower in the community that you're living in, right? Huge, big, however many story building that's going up, tower that's going up. So I think that we often forget how important, how impactful all of our projects are in the either for the people that we're doing them for, right? From some small little project at somebody's house that's super impactful for that person in their home and everything that they're doing, to the towers that we build, to the city blocks that we end up planning out. Those things are super important. And I just think that we forget how impactful our projects are, the work that we do really is for those people, for that community, for us, right? Those projects are building us. We learn more and more on every single project that we do. And hopefully we're taking more away from every project that we end up doing, right? That we end up learning and benefiting more and more from all the projects that we end up getting to be a part of. So the thing that I really want to start this episode with before I get into some of the other pieces is that in construction, in our industry, what we do is super impactful, and just enjoy the journey that we're on, enjoy being a part of these projects, because there might hopefully come a time, or hopefully not, there might come a time where you won't have any projects to work on, and you'll be sad when those days are there, maybe freaking out a little bit because you don't have any projects, which is a bigger worry and concern. But at the end of the day, having projects to work on, having people to work with is a big deal. And I think we take for granted some of the projects that we get to be a part of, the clients that we have, and that should not be something that we take for granted. Enjoy work for work's sake, enjoy having a mission, enjoy having a purpose, enjoy being able to show up to work every single day with something to basically look forward to. So the thing that I want to go into to talk about how you can improve really on projects and really make them flow smoother is it comes down to communication. Now, I know this is an overblown topic of communicating, but really what it comes down to is being clear on what is needed, what is required, and what you're needing to do for that project. Recently, I've had a couple instances where somebody said that, hey, this isn't good, or hey, your model isn't coordinated. Okay, great. I'm more than happy to fix whatever's the problem if you tell me what the problem is. Well, it's all bad. Okay, well, clearly it's not all bad. There's probably a few things that we need to fix, but telling me it's all bad doesn't really help me solve the problem. So being clear, concise, and specific in your communications is really what's going to help move a project forward. So in that instance, it could be like, hey, the lights in the bathroom aren't coordinated with the ceiling, or they're not at the same height as the ceiling. We need those to, hey, come into the ceiling grid so that we can coordinate them with the diffusers. Cool, no problem. Move them, right? Something must have gotten shifted. No big deal, right? Fix it, re-upload it, coordinate, all good. When you don't have that specificity, that clarity on your projects, this is where things end up being really misunderstood. And there's a couple things that end up happening in this. One is you're just spinning your wheels and trying to get clarity. Two is you end up asking not good questions because you don't have clarity on it. So first and foremost is to try to get clarity on your projects, on the specific scope, the specific items, the specific things that need to be improved, and then you can move forward. Far too often we are left with a less than clear outline of what needs to be done, and we kind of just go in a direction, and it turns out that's not exactly what the client was thinking, not what exactly they needed, and we end up having to redo a bunch of work. So in this, there's also a balance of not going too far first, but going far enough to where you can then have feedback. So often in the electrical world is you put in lights, do some lighting design, and then you try to get feedback through that to see if this is what the owner client had in mind. And with that, you usually go through a few iterations of, was this what you're thinking? Or here's a couple different options. And then they pick one and have a direction. So you need to do some work up front to then try to get direction, knowing that there's going to be some rework. So you don't do everything with it, but you do enough spaces, do enough work up front to give them options, to give them choices, to give them an example of what it's going to feel like, so they can make a decision that you can then move forward with for the rest of your project. This is something that, again, in the industry, it's always hard to hit that sweet spot of too much, not enough, right? And getting through this to making sure that we have clarity around what we need. So for a lot of this, we have, first and foremost, we've got to ask better questions up front to define our scope, to define what we're doing, and then to be able to move forward through projects. This is, when it comes down to communication, it's really clarity. That's what we mean. We mean clear, direct communication, right? Not saying that this thing is wrong, telling me, hey, go look at the bathrooms and making sure that the lights are at the right elevation of the ceiling in the bathrooms. Cool, got it. We can fix that, right? Just tell me the whole thing is wrong in a, let's say it's a 100,000 square foot building. Now I got a lot of space to cover to find something that may or may not be wrong. So again, clarity is your friend here, and clarity is the thing that we need to do more of in our communication, and being very specific and pointed with the questions that we ask. So if you do this in your contracts, in plain English contracts, in your communication with clients, in asking those direct questions, this is going to be super helpful for you and the team moving forward. So, and I've, in all the communication that I have with all the clients, all the owners, and all the projects that I've done, this is the core issue of really what we face is we're not clear, we're not concise, we're not direct, we're not specific in our communication. The more that we could do that, the better projects are going to go. So that to me is really the number one thing that you can do to help improve your team, your clients, all of your communication for everything that you do, by being specific, direct with all of your communication. And that is the number one thing that, leaving construction, we are missing. It causes a lot of rework, and it causes a lot of lost time. Guys, thank you so much for listening to today's episode of the Construction Corner podcast. Thank you all so much for listening. And if you would go down and give us a 5-star rating on whatever podcast platform that you're on, we appreciate it so much. And until next time, that is this episode of the Construction Corner Podcast.